Okay, shalom everybody. If you remember, we talked about the whole purpose of tefillah from the very beginning. We talked about how it was to replace the sacrifices in the temple, and we started this study on the 10th of Tevet, and I'm very happy that we are actually almost at the end of the morning davening because that took so much time in terms of the details, etc. We just had Yudayim Tammuz, and so um, we know that the merit of praying together is what's going to bring the Mashiach, and that's one of the pillars of the earth that the earth exists on. Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim. Torah is obviously studying Torah, Avodah is prayer, and Gemilut Chasadim is the acts of loving kindness. And so to combine the last two is one of the ideas of why we need to skip. So, for example, if you went to a later minyan, but your family needs you to pick the kids up or drop them off or something like that. So that's chesed, and so there's different priorities in terms of when we are permitted to leave the shul. If we already said that if we are the actual 10th man, we are not allowed to do that because we are ruining the possibility of other people doing acts of sanctification, and so this is just if a person is short in time but is already at the end of the davening after the Amida, what should they skip? So the recital of Tehillah, David, Ashrei, and Kedusha de Sidra is more important than saying Tachnun. For the Chachamim laud the person who recites Tehillah David 3 times daily, declaring that he has a place in the world to come. About Kedusha de Sidra, Chazal say that it is one of the things in whose merit the world exists after the destruction of the temple, whereas the recital of Tachanun is voluntary. Therefore, it is better that an individual praying on his own who does not have time to complete everything recites Tehillah David and Kedusha de Sidra. Additionally, the virtue in reciting Tehillah David and Kedusha de Sidra, whose basis is derived from the Talmud, is preferable to the recital of Shir Shel Yom, the Psalm of the Day, Titum Ktoret, and Aleinu, which were all customarily recited during the time of the Geonim and Rishonim. So that was after the Talmud, and that's why, again, the Geonim were trying to add things in order for us to have more connection to the Mikdash, like Shir Shayom is what the Levites sang while the Tamid Shachar was being brought, and Aleinu is basically the declaration of the prophets that the only way that the world will be redeemed is if all knees bow to Hashem and all bodies prostrate themselves to Hashem. Even though we do have a tradition, according to some, that Aleinu was written by Joshua and Achan, but we'll get to that in 2 paragraphs when we talk about Aleinu. One who is praying in a minyan and must leave before the end of the prayer service should try to stay at least until after Kedusha de Sidra, and even refrain from beginning to remove his tefillin before the conclusion of its recital. When possible, he should leave his tefillin on until after Kaddish Titkabal, which is after the Kedusha Sidra. All this is only in extenuating circumstances. However, lechatchila, one must hear another 2 Kaddishim, Kaddish Yehesh Lama, which is Kaddish Yatom, and Shir Shayom, and Kaddish Darabanan after Pitum HaKtoret. So what we do in Yeshivas Elimelech, because we don't say Pitum HaKtoret every day, only on Shabbat and Yantiv, then that's why Rabbi Herzfeld gives a little class after Shul so that we can say Kaddish Darabanan for those who either missed it or we had to skip it in the beginning. So let's just go into the sum of the day and see how that was instituted. So the Shacharit prayer was instituted to correspond to the morning Tamid offering, and after the sacrifice of the Tamid, the Leviim would recite Shir Shel Yom. Therefore, it became customary to say Shir Shel Yom after the Shacharit prayer service, although it was not instituted originally as an obligation, and some did not regularly recite it. By the end of the period of the Rishonim, everyone had already become accustomed to doing so. So I'll just make one comment. The Gra and Jews in other places in Europe had a custom to actually change the Shir Shayom for special occasions. So obviously on Rosh Chodesh we add, besides the Shir Yom, also the one Psalm 104, but there was also days like Shmini Atzeret, where the Gra says that we should say Lam Natzeach Ala Shminit, as opposed to the regular weekday that day is on. And there's also other examples. In Chanukah, the Sephardim say only Mizmor Shir Chanukah Tadalit David. They do not say the regular Shir Shlayom, and so on and so forth. Before the song, there is a reference to the day. Today is the first day of the week in relation to Shabbat, in order to fulfill the mitzvah of remembering the Shabbat on every day of the week. And the Sephardim add Yom Yom Sheni Shabbat Kodesh, as opposed to Shel Shabbat, and they add the word Kodesh. In Nusach Sefarad, the Psalm Tefillah David is added before Shir Shiyom, as well as a collection of verses which start with Beit Yaakov L'chuv V'Nacha and Shir Ma'alot David, Psalm 124. On days of joyous occasions when we do not recite Lanatzeach Mizmor David, meaning Psalm 24, Yancha Hashem Yom Tzara. Tefillah David is not said either, since the words Beyom Tzar Tir Kareka, on the day of my trouble I will call you, are mentioned in it, and that's according to the Piskei Tshuvot. These passages are also printed in Sidurim of Nusach Sfarad Chasidi, although many omit them, only reciting Shir Shayom like Minhag Ashkenaz. Another difference between the Nusachim is that Nusach Ashkenaz, Aleinu Shabach, is recited first, then Shir Shayom, and finally Pitum Aktoret, whereas in Nusach Sfarad, Shir Shayom is recited first, then Pitum Aktoret, and at the end, Aleinu Shabach. The order of discussion in this book is arranged according to the order of those praying in Nusach Sfarad. But I also heard once that because there was an opinion that you're not allowed to leave Shul before Aleinu, the rabbis instituted that we say Aleinu immediately after Avad Tzion. That way, if you need to leave, then you actually stayed for one more prayer with the community. Concerning someone who practices according to the Nusach and is praying with a Chazan following a different Nusach, there's a disagreement. Some say that it is best he prays with the Nusach of the Chazan, and others say it is best that he prays quietly in his own family's Nusach, but that he may not sit when the whole congregation stands for Aleinu Shabech, so as not to emphasize the difference. And even somebody who already prayed Aleinu in a previous minyan and just walked in maybe to start learning or something like that, the custom and the halacha is to say the first paragraph of Aleinu and not the full Aleinu. So we will stop here. And if there's any questions,